Somewhere over the Persian Gulf, in March 2026, a $20,000 Iranian-made drone is cruising toward a critical energy terminal. To stop it, a United Arab Emirates battery fires a single Patriot PAC-3 MSE interceptor. The drone is destroyed. The terminal is safe. But the math is a disaster. The interceptor costs roughly $4 million. That is a cost exchange ratio of 200 to 1. If you do that all night, you don't just run out of missiles, you run out of a national treasury. This is the reality of modern warfare in the Middle East. It isn't just a battle of kinetic energy, it's a battle of industrial endurance. In the first 4 weeks of the 2026 Iran conflict alone, the U.S. has already fired over 1,000 JASSM-ER cruise missiles. To put that in perspective, that's nearly 20% of the entire inventory built since 2009, expended in less than a month. Today, we are looking at the real cost of the weapons flowing into the Middle East. It's a story of record-breaking $117 billion trade surges, the erosion of democratic oversight through emergency waivers, and a $2 trillion sustainment tail that tethers these nations to the United States for the next 50 years. Why is the U.S. bypassing Congress to push $16 billion in hardware into a war zone? And what happens when the arsenal of democracy starts to run dry? In fiscal year 2024, the total authorized value of U.S. arms transfers under the Foreign Military Sales System hit a record $117.9 billion. That is a 45.7% surge in a single year. But here is where it gets interesting. While we often focus on grants like Foreign Military Financing or FMF, which saw a 168% increase in 2024, the real weight is in partner-funded FMS. Middle Eastern nations aren't just taking handouts. They are using sovereign wealth to the tune of nearly $97 billion to buy into the American defense ecosystem. Between 2012 and 2015, this region accounted for over 60% of all arms agreements in the developing world. Today, U.S. equipment forms the literal backbone of national defense in the Gulf and Israel. But you have to distinguish between the flyaway price, what it costs to buy the jet, and the life cycle cost. There is a golden rule in defense economics, the 70-30 rule. It suggests that 70% of a weapon system's total cost isn't the purchase, it's the operations and support, or O&S, over its lifetime. Take the F-35 Lightning II. While the base sticker price has dropped to around $82.5 million for recent production lots, that is a drop in the bucket. For a foreign military sales customer like Switzerland or Israel, a combat-ready F-35 package often ends up costing $164 million per aircraft once you add infrastructure, training, and spares. The F-35 program as a whole carries a $2 trillion life cycle cost through 2088. When a nation like Israel or the UAE buys these jets, they aren't just buying a plane. They are signing a multi-decadal financial contract with the American industrial base. The relationship is governed by a 10-year memorandum of understanding that commits $38 billion in aid. But the current conflict has blown those numbers apart. Between October 2023 and September 2025, the U.S. spent at least $21.7 billion on military aid to Israel. In the summer of 2025 alone, during a 12-day spike in hostilities, the U.S. fired 150 THAAD and 80 SM-3 interceptors. The replacement cost for those munitions is staggering. The Pentagon allocated $700 million to replace them, but that was only enough for about 34 THAADs and 31 SM-3s. We are seeing a multi-$100 million shortfall in war reserves just from a 2-week engagement. And now, in April 2026, the depletion is reaching a critical point. With over 1,000 JASSM-ER missiles already used against Iran, the U.S. is down to just 425 missiles for every other region in the world. To put that in perspective, that's only enough for 17 B-1B bombers to fly a single mission. Why does the U.S. keep selling? Because these sales are the lifeblood of the American industrial base. Saudi Arabia is the single largest customer for U.S. arms, taking 12% of all U.S. exports. But look closer at what they buy. They aren't just buying tanks, they are keeping the factories open. Saudi orders for the M1, Abrams have been the primary factor in keeping the Lima Army tank plant in Ohio operational during years when the U.S. Army wasn't buying many tanks. A 2011 Saudi order for F-15S ensured work for Boeing's St. Louis facility well into the 2020s. The Qatari F-15QA deal alone is claimed to support 60,000 jobs across 42 states. This is the real cost from the American perspective. Arms sales are a domestic economic stimulus package, but there is a political cost to this economic gain. Under Section 36 of the Arms Export Control Act, the president can bypass Congress if an emergency exists. Historically, this was rare, but it's becoming the new normal. In 2019, the Trump administration used it for $8.1 billion in sales. In February 2025, it was used for 2,000-pound bombs for Israel. Then came March 19, 2026. Secretary of State Marco Rubio issued an emergency waiver for $16.5 billion in sales to the UAE, Kuwait, and Jordan. The package includes $8 billion for Kuwait's next-gen LTAMDS radars and $8.4 billion for the UAE's air defenses. Critics point out that these high-end radars take years to build, hardly fitting the definition of an immediate emergency. The real cost here is the loss of legislative oversight. By the time Congress can debate the merits of these sales, the hardware is already on the production line. We are also seeing a shift toward total package integration. Qatar is currently funding the construction of a training facility at Mountain Home Air Force Base in Idaho. This is the first time a Gulf Air Force will station assets permanently on U.S. soil. They aren't just customers, they are roommates. Meanwhile, the UAE is pushing for technical autonomy. They are integrating their own indigenous missiles, made by the Edge Group, onto US-made MQ-9B Reaper drones. They are the only country besides the UK to do this. It's a move toward independence, but it's an expensive one. A base MQ-9 airframe costs about $34 million. But the UAE's total package costs roughly $165 million per drone. We are approaching a sustainability threshold. You cannot fight a war of the future using the economics of the past. As asymmetric threats, cheap drones and unguided rockets, become more prolific, the US and its partners are desperately looking for a sub-$750,000 endo-atmospheric interceptor. Until that arrives, we are stuck in a loop. Middle Eastern nations buy a technological shield that provides security, but it comes at the price of a permanent logistical and financial tether to Washington. The real cost of hegemony is dynamic. It's measured in the health of a factory in Ohio, the depletion of a missile stockpile in the Pacific, and the erosion of oversight in D.C. As the sophistication of these weapons increases, the sustainment tail grows even faster. For the American taxpayer, it's a balance between economic benefits and the risk of arming a region that is currently in the middle of its largest conflict in decades. The Middle East remains the most profitable and high-stakes market for U.S. defense firms. But as the interceptors fly and the treasuries drain, the question isn't just who has the best tech, it's who can afford to keep it running.